Chapter 3. I watched Dad go down the steep bank to get to the lake. Thankfully, nothing falls out of the sleigh this time. I follow Crystal down and then shoot out past her onto the untouched snow. I race around the little lake, which doesn't take me long. The only thing I see on the whole lake is a black fish house. It's just a big square plywood box that sits out there peacefully like it's the only little house on earth. The fish house is Steve's. He's a senior in high school who lives near here. Our families have known each other for years. My grandpa and his grandpa were friends. That's how we ended up having a cabin way up north. Steve is super cool and fun to hang out with. He traps, hunts, and knows all the best fishing spots up here. Each time we see him, he has a crazy story to tell. Like the time he ran into 6 black bears when he was walking through a cornfield to go bow hunting for a deer. Or the time he trapped a giant beaver and it took him and a friend 20 minutes to drag it up the bank. I love his stories. Every time we come to Boney's to ice fish, the black house is here. I've never been inside it, but I can only imagine how many fish Steve has caught in there. I head back to help Dad, Mom, and Crystal set up. It's beautiful out, not a cloud in the pure blue sky. The temperature has warmed up and feels good now. The best part is, if there were a flag around, it would be hanging straight down. There isn't a trace of wind. Dad unloads the sleigh and sets everything up in the snow. "Luke, take my snowmobile and load up the sleigh with wood for a fire," he says. Crystal and I look at each other, both a little shocked. This is the first time Dad has let me drive his big sled. "On it," I say. I play it cool. I pull on my helmet, walk over to Dad's sled, and grab the pull cord. I give it a pull with all my might. To my surprise, it fires right up. I look over to see if Dad noticed. He did. He smiles and gives me a thumbs up. Then I look at Crystal and give her a confident nod. She smirks and shakes her head. I'm not sure she thinks I'm as cool as I feel. The engine rumbles with power. I can sense it through my whole body. I get on and try to ease the snowmobile forward. When I give it more gas, it shoots forward. Like a wild animal, it roars with strength. This snowmobile is amazing. It's like a team of horses ready to explode into a full gallop. I let off quickly. There is so much power when I hit the throttle, I have to admit, it's a little frightening. I continue forward, but take it easy across the lake. I don't want to ruin my chances of driving Dad's snowmobile again. At the shore, I get to work gathering wood. I find a bunch of dead branches and load them into the sleigh. Then I head back to our fishing spot. We'll have a fire going in no time. When I reach Dad, he already has 2 holes drilled into the ice. The thing about ice fishing is that you can't just throw your line out. You first have to cut through the ice in order to reach the water below. To do that, you use a special drilling tool called an auger. Some augers run on gas or batteries. Ours runs on good old-fashioned muscle. "Can I drill my own hole?" I ask. Dad gives me the red auger with the black handle. "Be my guest," he says. I hunt around for a spot that feels just right. "How deep do you think it is here?" I ask Dad. He knows this lake well. "You're at about 8 feet, I would guess," Dad says. I figure that's perfect. I clear off the snow and set the blade on the ice. Then I push down and start cranking the handle. The corkscrew drill begins spinning. The blade scratches at the ice and digs in, just like a bear clawing to get to a frozen fish. With each full turn, it digs into the ice about a ½ inch. I keep turning and turning, and it keeps cutting and cutting. After a while, my arms feel like noodles, so I stop for a break. This is tough. I'm breathing hard, but the clean, cool air brings my strength back. I am determined to get through this thick ice. There are fish down there that I'm going to catch. I start again. The drill is now out of sight, deep in the ice. I keep cranking the handle and get into a steady rhythm. As I concentrate on the spinning drill, I'm reminded of Grandma's mixer making cookie dough. My mind wanders for a bit. I can almost smell Grandma's amazing chocolate chip cookies as I picture them coming out of the oven. Grandma makes the best cookies. But then the drill catches on the ice and I snap back to reality. I have to focus. The water is down there somewhere and I have to reach it. I pause, grit my teeth, and give it all I've got for a few spins. Finally, the drill busts through. Victory at last! I hold on tight to the handle as water rushes up the hole. I don't want to lose the drill to the bottom of the lake. I slide my feet back, keeping clear of the water spilling onto the ice. Now it's time to flush the hole. I push the drill down deep and then quickly pull it out. This makes water surge up, clearing all the ice chips from the hole. Dad taught me this trick, and it works great. Using my right boot, I scrape the pile of ice down smooth. I flush the hole one more time, which seems to complete the job. I nod at the clear water, giving it my approval. There we go, I say triumphantly. I look around for approval, but nobody heard me. They're all busy with their own projects. It doesn't matter. It's time for fishing. Chapter 4. Now that I'm done drilling my hole, I notice that Mom has a fire blazing. Nice fire, Mom. You rock, I comment. Thanks, she says. I grab my sweet little green fishing rod and a small container of wax worms. This rod has helped me catch a bunch of fish, and today should be no different. Back at my hole, I carefully hook on a wax worm. I'm not sure what a wax worm really is, but I know it's not made out of wax. It's a real live white wiggly thing. I can't believe Crystal plays with them. Each time we go fishing, she puts a couple in her hand and lets them crawl around. She's so weird. I look over and see Crystal and Dad setting up. Their holes are right next to each other. Are you guys ready? I'm all set, I yell. I can be as loud as I want out here. There isn't anyone around for miles. Almost, Crystal says. Give us 1 second. Dad and Crystal finally get their wax worms hooked on. Ready. Crystal raises her fishing rod like a warrior ready for a battle charge. Let's see who can catch the first fish. Fish on, Dad commands. Here we go. I open the bail of my little black reel, which lets the line spool out. The tiny green jig with the wax worm dangling from its hook drops down the hole. When I feel like the jig is about 6 feet below the ice, I close the bail, and the line goes tight. I slowly jerk the rod up and down to give the bait some action. This is called jigging. I hold my rod lightly and stare at the hole, waiting to sense any little bite. I feel like an Alaskan grizzly bear watching intently for the first salmon to swim upstream. I keep jigging and hoping, but nothing happens for a while. Come on, where are they? I say. I look over at Dad, who smiles back. Patience, Luke. Good things come to those who wait, he says, knowing good and well neither of us has very good patience. I stare at my hole with more intensity. I know the fish are down there, so I decide to take a peek. I get on my knees and put my face right into my hole, using my hands to block the sunlight. I'm now looking at a whole other world down there. The water is crystal clear, and I can see all the way to the bottom. There are brown weeds and big clumps of stuff that look like giant brown blobs on the lake bottom. We always see them when we're fishing in the summer. It's just how this lake is. I've never seen those clumps in any other lake. Suddenly, I feel a cold, wet sensation on my nose. I lean back in surprise. Whoops, I was leaning so far down that my nose touched the water. I laugh at myself as some droplets fall off the end of my nose. Sometimes I get so focused on what I'm doing that things like this happen. I forget about everything else. I put my head back down, making sure I don't get so close to the water this time. I can just make out my green jig down there. I strain to see more, but I'm limited to my little peek hole. Then a small sunfish swims into view. It goes straight to my jig and takes a poke at my wax worm. Get out of here, little guy. I want something bigger than you. On cue, 3 giant sunfish swim into the circle. That's what we're looking for. I pulled my head out and enter back into the snowy world. The sun is bright and my eyes know it. I have to squint until my vision gets used to the light. I begin jigging again. I bounce my rod tip up and down, hoping to entice the big sunnies to bite. I feel a little nibble. I stop jigging and let the tip of the rod slowly drop down. That lets my jig fall and usually causes a fish to bite. It thinks it's a snack dropping to the bottom. My line twitches again. I think one of the fish is taking the bait. Bam! I set the hook by pulling up. The unmistakable tug at the other end of the line confirms my feeling. The fight is on. Oh, baby, I got one, I yell. I pull and reel, but the sunfish wants nothing to do with coming up to my hole. He spins in circles and gives it everything he has. I fight him until he finally starts calming down. I pull him up through the hole and raise him high in victory. First fish, I declare. I show him to Crystal, Dad, and Mom. My rod has bent over. He's a big one. Good job, Luke, Mom calls from the fire. I take a better look at my catch. This sunny is huge. The sunfish in this lake can be giants, and I mean giants. This one is way bigger than my open right hand. I pop the hook out of his mouth, then run over and drop him in the white 5-gallon bucket. That's one for dinner, I smile proudly. I race back to my hole. I can't wait to see how many more fish I can catch. But before I even get my line back into the water, Crystal is hooting. She's got one on. I watch her pull a giant sunfish out. The smile on her face is priceless. Dad and Crystal high-five, and Dad unhooks the fish and plops it into the bucket. Good job, Crystal, I yell. Your turn, Dad, I say, egging him on. Come on, let's see what you got. Dad just gives me a thumbs up and a wink. The game is on.